and we are doing our presentation on individuals with disabilities striving for independence within and outside of the public school system. It's a very long title, but we want to make sure that we emphasize the within and outside. And my name is Tiana.
And I'm Roxy Lopez. So a little background information before we jump in. Tiana and I were originally going to work together, but our professor, Dr. M, kind of let us know that our topics were both very similar and that we would be able to connect the dots if we collaborated. So this is what we came up with for our thesis.
So after that conversation, this is what our thesis came out to. High school and transitional programs allow students ranging from ages 14 to 24 to grow, develop life skills, and take initiative within their daily life, all while becoming independent individuals. So a few of the focus areas that we focused on were
the first one is communication skills. So that includes self-advocacy. So the teens and adults with disabilities knowing when to speak up and when they should be able to stand up for themselves and how to appropriately do so. So that ties along with social skills, which can include nonverbal cues such as eye contact, being aware of personal space. Another focus area is academics, which Tiana will go into in a little bit. But the academic goals are usually individualized in their IEP plans. Vocational skills such as programs like Workability. So Workability is a program that I learned about through this school process where a job coach will pick up the student at their school site and will take public transportation to a work site such as Lazy Dog and will coach them through their shift and make sure they are always there for support, and if they need something, there's always going to be a job coach to guide them. Community-based instruction is also part of vocational skills, so knowing how to navigate the community by doing things such as going to the bank and knowing how to cash a check, knowing how to deposit a check, knowing stuff like you need to have your wallet on you, you need to know your PIN number, you need to have your ID card on you. As well as community-based vocational instruction, so it's very similar to CBI, but more emphasis on job skills. So for example, for that one, which I'll go into in a little bit, but going to, for example, an ice cream shop, which I'll explain. One of the classes that I observed actually went as a class to a local ice cream shop, and the establishment allowed them to role play different positions. So a group of students would act as a cashier, and another group of students would be placing orders, and then a separate group of students was actually preparing the ice cream cones and integrating both vocational skills and social skills.
Also, we didn't mention, Roxy will be focusing on the high school program, and I'll be looking at transitional, so she'll always talk first and I'll follow up with her. Okay, so the second set of focus areas we did was community skills, which also relates back to safety and public transportation, so knowing when to cross the street and not having a peer or staff say okay, it's safe to do so now. They know how to do it on their own. And then the next one is self-help and domestics, so household chores, personal hygiene and self-care. Household chores would be something like making your bed, doing your laundry, doing the dishes, so being responsible for yourself, and a lot of these things we forget to do ourselves as humans, so we always want to reiterate individuals with disabilities to do their become independent by doing these things. Hygiene, so knowing when to shower, what to wear for an event, or brushing your teeth, and self-care. We wanted to add this because it also is important to emphasize me time, so being able to just come home from school and relax. And then leisure and rec would be hobbies, sports, friendships, and fun. And we get into that a lot because a lot of this is built around having fun and making friends. So all coming together, I got this quote from a transitional teacher that I interviewed, and she talked about how the academic curriculum is typically life skills based. So for example, the math is embedded in cooking curriculum. So doing measurements and fractions such as a fourth cup, half a teaspoon, doubling the recipes, so they're practicing math skills within cooking. And then going to the bank and budgeting skills and time, so knowing that you only have 20 minutes to run to the bank, what time do we need to leave, how long do you need to take at the ATM, And then reading and writing is embedded in the community skills curriculum, so reading the bus schedule, current events, completing a job application or a resume. And during the high school program, this is often practiced and prompted by other teachers, but then in the transitional program, it's kind of like, go, do it yourself, see if you can do it, and become independent. So next we're going to talk about our lit review that we did together.
So some of the key findings, because we conducted our literature reviews separately, and I focused more so on high school age students, which roughly ranges from ages 14 through 18. And a few of the major themes that throughout the literature that I reviewed included the emphasis on getting kids out in the community. So some of these skills some of the skills that we were talking about used to be taught within the classroom, but studies have shown that integrating the students into the community and actually practicing with actual cashiers and with actual bankers is a lot more valuable than role playing within the classroom. So that's a major theme that I noticed. And so pretty much what I also found interesting is that the high school program and everything that's included in the high school programs for individuals with disabilities really lays the foundation for what occurs in what Tiana researched.
So the transitional program is roughly ages 18 to 24, and this fluctuates, so it depends on like the accommodations and modifications that a student needs. They can start earlier, they can start later. So this continues to practice the responsibility and maturity and also just the growth. And then also, I'll talk about this a little more, but this is a time where community-based vocational instruction, CBVI, is a time where the students go out and either seek jobs and like continue to go there and work and become more independent, and they're also getting paid. So it's something that adults with disabilities need. So for our interview report,
I interviewed 2 special education teachers, specifically teachers for students with moderate to severe disabilities. And some overall themes that I noticed that both of the teachers included within their answers to the questions that I asked include connecting skills learned inside the classroom and implementing them into the community. So kind of like I said, it's more effective when the skills that they're learning in the classroom are integrated out in the community. And this happens a lot, which I'll explain to you in some of the pictures that are coming up. But the whole point of CBI, the whole point of CBVI, the community-based vocational instruction, is to use those skills and not lose them. So if the students are constantly practicing within the classroom, or if they're just learning about a certain skill and they're not using it out in the real world, then what's the point? So one of the quotes that I pulled from one of the teachers, Mr. P. So he says that there are all these qualities of life factors that you have to think about in education as a teacher, and there are many factors. That is a whole separate interview. But the gist is, can these students have a good time on the weekend like any other teen their age? What should they be asking their families to do for them? Can they one day organize a social event with their friends? Is the bar set too low for individuals with disabilities? So that was very impactful to me, because everything that they learn within the classroom, in the end, it's their quality of life and their mental health and well-being that truly matters. So that just really stood out to me. Is the bar set too low? Like, are the expectations too low? Individuals with disabilities are capable of so much more than what society thinks.
Okay, so for my 2 interviews that I conducted, I did a special education transitional teacher, and this actual special transition classroom was on a high school campus, but it was a separate program. So it was integrated with the high school. And what she said from what I talked to her about was community experiences provide opportunities to build skills in the following areas: social skills, independence, self-determination, network of friendship with the same age peers, and job skills. So a lot of the things Roxy's talking about is introduced. And then in the transitional program, it's more like active and, you're on your own, but I'm here for your support. And then I also interviewed a parent with an adult with Down syndrome, who's actually my neighbor back at home. And she said that she saw growth in my son in both of these programs. His high school focused on learning the system, and his transition program focused more on the life skills. He is now a 30-year-old with Down syndrome who is limitless. So I really want to emphasize the way that she said limitless, because it is true. He lives on his own in a group home, and he's like part of a basketball team and all that thing. So like he is pretty much limitless. And a lot of these programs set people up with disabilities to become limitless. So, okay.
So for my specific fieldwork hours, I observed at a local high school, and there was a few programs and a few events that I was able to take part of and observe. And the first one that I'm going to be talking about is the daily coffee cart program that they have, which is a very neat program that the special education teacher there founded and has made successful. So each student, every morning the students in first period will make a batch of coffee, and they will also prepare all the sides and fixins like the creamer and the sugar, and they have hot water and tea bags to offer, and they go to specific classrooms and they offer the teachers if they would like to purchase coffee. So each student has a role. One is the cashier, which handles the money, and then another is the barista, which will prepare the coffee, and then another one kind of like supervises. And again, like this kind of promotes everything that we just talked about. Social skills, communication skills, vocational skills. So this was a very valuable thing that I was able to witness.
And then also implementing like the factor of academics. So math, like how many creamers do they want? Like how much do they owe me? Do I have to give them change? So this is all practiced in her fieldwork site. So.
And then the second program, Hungry Panthers. So this is also super amazing. The teacher created a set order form and to order food, or like order forms for menus from different restaurants. And what will happen is that the teachers around campus will fill out what they want for lunch and provide payment methods, so like cash or card. And the students during fourth period, which is right before lunch, will go out in the community and order the food according to the order form and pay for the food, as you can see in the pictures. All by themselves. Well, there's instructional support there, but a majority of the task is done completely on their own, walk back to campus, and deliver the food. So again, this integrates these students out in the community. They're not just within a school setting, but they're out in the community learning these valuable skills.
And also what I want to point out real quick is that that's the form on the left-hand side, and it says at the top, have a coupon for $5.99, so they can also learn about how like coupons can be, you know, either money off or that is the payment, so they understand the difference. And then also doing like what Roxy went through with the Hungry Panthers, this sets them up for being able to go order their lunch on their own someday, and not just for a teacher, but themselves.
And then this is kind of what I mentioned earlier. One of their community-based instruction outings was at a local ice cream shop. I think it's called Brewster's. It's like right around the corner. And so what the establishment allowed them to do is come in and take turns role playing. So as you can see in the first picture, there's a student who is taking the order, and then another student who is placing the order. And then in the other two pictures, they're actually making the ice cream cones, making the ice cream itself. And as you can see, there's support there for them. But just having them out there and having that experience of what it's like to have a job and what it's like to, you know, are your hands clean? Things like that are just very important, and they were able to practice that through community-based instruction.
Okay, this is really busy. So for my fieldwork, I did most of my hours at Marsh Wave Crest, which is a home for adults with disabilities. And this is not a transitional program, but it's kind of like what the future can look like for individuals that are going to be graduating from the transitional program at age 24 and what their life could look like. So a few of the common themes was a lot of patience, a lot of support, teamwork, love, and independence, and a lot of self-directed learning. So this picture on the top with the dishwasher is Chris, and we actually were just talking in the kitchen, and he was like, I'm thirsty, I want a glass of water. And he went to the cupboard and there's no cups, and he's like, well, where's all the cups? But then he realized that all the like clean dishes and all the cups were in the dishwasher, and so he just started unloading. But I didn't have to prompt him, I didn't have to say anything. That is like exactly what we want for our adults with disabilities, to be independent and have self-directed learning. And then just some other fun pictures. We went to the zoo one day, and then that's him and I on one of those bikes, and we actually almost flipped, and so he wanted to switch so I could be like the steerer and driver. So that's kind of also like the self-advocacy and like communication in the voice, and he's like, Tiana, I don't really feel comfortable, steering, can we switch? And so we did. So yeah, and then the second one was Regional Center Orange County, and actually Roxy came with me. We went to a Transition Talks circle community-based thing where it's like rooms with different topics. So there was like 8 rooms and we went to 4 of them. And they focus a lot on team building, community, and family and parent support. So a lot of the people that we sat with during the talks were a lot of parents and a lot of siblings and a lot of teachers and either counselors or whatever. And they were just like, what can we do more to get our children with disabilities involved in the community, and what can we do on the parent side? So that was something that was really interesting. And then also Dale McIntosh Center, which helps with the technology and assisted living. So Larsh and Dale actually work closely together, and this is more of like who needs what, when and where, what can we do to get you more independent and like more like able to do. Okay. What's next? Okay. So this is our synthesis of findings and our connection between the 2 programs. First, we thought that the importance of these programs to be implemented in and outside of the public school system. So I know that like high school program, I think it's required, like it's not an option, but like the transitional program is. So it's like, how much support are you getting at home to be like, oh, let's seek a transitional program that you can get into. And then the second thing was, as future educators, we both have absorbed the good and the bad of special education, and we're not saying that there's a lot of bad, but there was a lot of speed bumps along the way and a lot of things that we learned. And obviously there's a ton of good, because we both love this field. So the third thing was the synergy between the 2 programs. As an individual with disabilities, they cannot have the transitional program without completing the high school, or vice versa. The programs go hand in hand, and so after graduating from the transitional program, they are pretty much set up, to live independently and be their own individual. Okay.
So in conclusion, we kind of wanted to wrap up our presentation by sharing what we have planned. Like after getting all this knowledge through this project, we kind of want to share with you guys our future plans. So I love IES and Atala so much that I will be staying here for my master's in special education and moderate to severe teaching credential. And I also recently accepted a full-time position as a teacher's assistant for an inclusion program at an elementary school. So that's what I will be doing for the next couple of years.
And kind of doing the same thing, we're like twins. We go hand in hand itself. So I am gonna receive my master's at University of California, Santa Barbara, UCSB, and I will get a teaching credential alongside my master's, so it'll be a teaching credential for moderate to severe disabilities. And we're just super excited to stay in touch as like best friends, and also learn from each other. So we really hope you enjoyed our presentation and our passions.